Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daycheck with Queen Bee Creations, and thanks for checking us out. If you haven't subscribed already, I invite you to do so. We try and come up with 2 brand new crafts a week, so we're putting out videos as often as we can to be able to help you out, get your creative juices flowing. Give us a thumbs up and share if you've got some friends that you think that would also enjoy whatever we're doing. Today, we are taking some old spindles. Now, I tend to grab up old cribs whenever I can, mostly because of all the different variety of spindles and things, and I can use them for a myriad number of projects. Good word, myriad. And today is no exception. So what I wanted to do was use them in a bit of a Christmas craft, and one that I think turns out pretty darn cute. So you let me know. There's a little bit of handiwork that goes with this one because one, you need, if you're using spindles, you need to chop them down to the sizes that we need, and we ultimately need a hole in it. So if you're not particularly handy at doing that, grab somebody who is. I mostly got my husband. I did some of it, but I bailed on some of it too. But you don't have to use spindles for this. You can use other types of wood, and I invite you to kind of explore some of that. I think that 2x2s would be great. I think that driftwood would be great, and I'm likely to do that. I think that you could get away with broomsticks. I mean, whatever you happen to have, whatever you come across. But we're gonna jump into it and you'll get an idea of what I mean. Okay, so this wood towel holder, paper towel holder, had a really thick dowel up the center, which was a little too thick or too fat for my purposes. So I ultimately unscrewed it. It had this nice already built-in notch here, and all I did was drill a small little hole in here and then put the screw up through there so that I have a nice thin dowel to be able to add some of my pieces to. And what I'm looking at doing is taking some of these spindles that I have and inserting them. This one already has a partial hole, but looking at inserting them on in staggered lengths. You're too fat. Building them up in staggered lengths to a Christmas tree. So I have to look at drilling holes through all of my pieces. I need to line all my pieces up first and see which ones are going to work for me and how many will fit. I'm trying to get a variety. So I've got all of these spindles that came off of some chair rails and some off of a crib, and I'm going to take a look at layering them up to the height, layering them up. So I'm looking at kind of layering them up to the height that I need, and then I will ultimately mark off where I need to chop them off on a chop saw and drill them up, and then we'll get painting. So I have to kind of line these up, and then I'll show you what I come up with. So let me go digging first. I have successfully got holes in my spindles, and I'm using the term I very loosely because I had troubles finding bits the right size, and ultimately it meant my husband had to go out and buy a new bit for me, bring it to the shop, and then since he was here, I may have coerced him into doing the drilling for me. So what he did do was he used this little bit, which I call the ones with the wings, because it's got the pokey part and it goes wider, to start it, and then use the big fat one, and I needed 7/16, so just shy of half an inch, to be able to go around this tiny little dowel. So you definitely want to make your dowel smaller in diameter. I mean, that big honkin' one, where did it go? That was in there, unless you have big pieces, I think if you were doing like, this would be perfect if you were doing a big driftwood one, that your pieces are really big and fat. But, you know, look at this poor little guy. I mean, it hardly had any space to be able to get the hole in. So just something to consider when you are kind of selecting the paper towel dispenser, and you know, if you're going that route and not starting from scratch. But because this had like cute little rubber feet already, a nice solid base, that's why I went with it. Now, the other thing that I am doing is I just want to clean up these jaggedy holes before I paint. So you can just sand them with a piece of sanding paper. I just have this kind of sanding bit, and I'm just using the drill to kind of go around the holes and just take the jagged parts off it. You know, if there's parts that had kind of broken away a little bit, I don't mind. I don't care about that because I'm going to be painting it still. So I'm just sanding these smooth, cleaning them up a bit, and then we're going to paint. But in essence, let me just show you what happens. I mean, you know, these just all, it's like the kids' blocks. You got to get them in order. But they just all stack on here in kind of a gradual going in. And then I have this piece, which was the end of one of the spindles that you can see, it's from this spindle here that I cut off, and then that will be the top. So they all manage to fit, but it gets kind of freaky when you get down to these little bits because my spindles were fairly narrow once they got going. But I'm just going to finish cleaning them all up, and then we'll come back and we'll do some of the painting. I have all of my pieces sanded, and what I also did was I sanded off the cut ends. So just making sure that they were a little bit smooth, not so rough, and just a little nicer to the touch. To paint them up, what I'm going to do is take Apothecary by DIY, and I am going to paint them all in the Apothecary green. And then I'm going to take beadboard, and I am going to dry brush that over the Apothecary. And what I'm looking at is, I don't need perfect coverage for either of these. I want it to be a little bit, I'm going to say patchy, because I want it to look worn. I am going to be sanding these back. I am going to be distressing them. So I'm going to get some of the natural wood showing as well. So I'm going to get them all painted in this, dry brush the white, and then we'll be back to see about doing a little bit of distress. We're going to be doing a lot of painting here. I'm thinking the way things are going, I will be doing 2 coats of Apothecary and then just one quick dry brush coat of white over top. But this, I'm just going to do the dark and decrepit and white. So I'm not going to do the Apothecary on it, just on the tree part of our project. Okay, so this is just going to be the dark and then the white distressed. So it's just going to be our base. And I'm only painting part way down so that I still have a handle to hold it, and then I'll come back and I'll paint the other end, and then I will just repeat again, and then we will do our white. All right, everything's dry, so I'm looking at doing some light sanding on everything. I have some 120 grit sandpaper, and I also have some baby wipes, and I am going to use both. So I'm gonna do a little bit of dry sanding, a little bit of wet sanding, and we'll see how it goes. Really what I'm looking at doing, I mean, on this base, pretty straightforward. I'm just looking to do a bit of sanding, smooth it out a little bit, and just distress the edges, right? So this more than anything else, I mean, this pole, I just want to get smooth so that my spindles all get on there and rotate fine, but that post isn't going to show when it's finished because all of the spindles will be gone. So all I'm looking here is just smoothing this out, just pressing the edge a little bit. When it comes to my spindles, I just want to smooth them out. I want to get a softer texture on them, and then just take my wet distressing here and there. Gives me the opportunity to lighten up some of the white in spots if I think I got a little bit too heavy, and to potentially bring out some of that dark wood on some of the ends, right? So just a little bit here and there, I think. Nothing major, but just a little bit to add just another little dimension to it, more than anything else. So I'm just looking at kind of smoothing them out, get a little bit of the brown showing, and then I'm just looking at clear waxing them. So I'm just going to take my DIY wax, I'm going to clear wax them and let it dry, and then buff them out. And then we're going to assemble. Before you begin assembling this, I do suggest that you lay out your pieces in descending order. I know this is the bottom piece, so it can go on first, but you're gonna want to kind of lay them out just so that before you start doing it, you know the order that they go in. It's like a little puzzle block, just so that you're not taking them on and off all the time. Okay, perfect. Now you have the option of gluing each of these pieces in place so that they always stay looking exactly uniform as a tree. I am leaving mine free-flowing so that they can turn, meaning you could have them all going whichever way you want. I like that idea. But if that drives you crazy and you need them to always be lined up, and it would drive you nuts to see one off center, then glue them. Don't drive yourself crazy. And again, I mean, you could leave the top unglued if you want as well, so that you could take the top off and you could change them out from the season. So if I was doing this for myself, I mean, you know, I could do that and leave it kind of as a puzzle piece. You could make it as a game so that all of these just become stackable and you could have kids play with them and be able to put them into the different shapes. Or you could glue them all in place. Or what I'm going to do, because I want this to just remain as a tree, I am just going to glue the top in place. So these will be able to turn, this will not. And I'm going to use some Gorilla Construction adhesive. It's very thick, because I'm going to be putting this upright and I don't want any of the glue dripping down my spindle. This is really thick. It does not drip. So I'm just looking to kind of fill that top part up, and I just want to wipe off my base. And okay, I'm just wiping off a little too much because I want it to go all the way down. And there we go. I want to leave a little bit of space between it and the next bar. So I have a little drip that, not a drip, but a little blob of it that did come down. So I just want to remove it. There we go. So the other one is still going to turn. And there we go. I think that this looks super cute and kind of fun, a little bit non-traditional for Christmas. It's in the softer kind of cottagecore sort of colors. I'm not going to decorate it further. You could, but I love it just being kind of this neutral sort of fun look to it. So it's got the Christmas tree vibe, but it's not an in-your-face, bright red and green kind of Christmas. So it's something that you could put out on a buffet and it would still be very subtle, kind of introducing Christmas slowly into the house. I mean, whatever happens, but I'm loving this. I am now committed to, at some time, scrounging up some driftwood and doing a version like this with just the driftwood pieces. I think it would look awesome. It'd be super cute. But yeah, it was a bit of a pain to drill into the spindles. I really suggest having a table vise, right? Which I don't have, but I have determined I need to have for future projects. But it's just made using all scrapped wood. The only thing that I purchased for this was the paper towel dispenser that I got from the Value Village. So again, $3 purchase, and the rest of the spindles was all found wood. So you could even do this with decreasing sizes of 2x2 wood, right? So it doesn't have to be the spindles, it could be the 2x2 wood, and you can always do molds across them to make them a little bit more interesting. So don't feel stuck into, you know, I don't have spindles so I can't do anything. 2x2 boards, cut in decreasing sizing, just even on their own painted, would look awesome. If you give it a try, let me know. I'd love to hear what you thought, what your experience was. Certainly let me know what you think of this project too. And as always, I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.